to Lockdown Beers and a Rugby Chat. Hi, I'm Paul, and I'll be your host today. Been doing some tidying up around the house today and came across my green bucket. So I thought I'd put that on to start off the show. Obviously in a hat tip or a bucket tip to Manawa 2. Obviously, anyway, let's take that off. Makes your hearing go all funny. And that does. But yeah, funny games from the time I went down to Palmerston North for a game between to go and watch a game of Manawa 2. I can't remember who they're playing now. But anyway. Just a minute and 5 seconds until 5 o'clock, and time to crack open those beers. Got myself a Tui ready for that. To crack open that at 5 o'clock. Some of the stuff to talk about today. Well, World 12s look like is a big kind of rugby story. Also, Jordie Barrett got himself off the what do you call it? His red card, and also the NPC. Also, NPC news as well. So, good evening to Simon, who is in the live chat there. He doesn't think that World Rugby is going to sanction the World 12s. 30 seconds to go, folks, until 5 o'clock, and that's ceremonial beer opening to say that it's time to wind down from a day of work. And a man jumping on just in time for that ceremonial can opening is Stephen Harris. How are you doing, sir?
Very good, thank you, Paul. Yeah, just in the nick of time, literally.
Absolutely. And 5 seconds to go. And I hope you've had a safe day under lockdown in Auckland. There we go. That's 5 o'clock, and the beer is open. Got the Tui and the ceremonial pour. Stephen Harris there with his cup of tea by the looks of things, or a coffee.
Coffee.
Coffee, there we go. So he's not sleeping tonight, getting caffeine in later in the day. Good luck to him. So, Stephen, you've kept safe today. Been a bit of a wet one down here in Waihi.
Yeah, I'm actually, it's been a really, really good day, and the reason because I'm on holiday from tomorrow, so I've got the next 7 days off work, and destination probably out to my mailbox or maybe down the road for a walk or a ride. So I haven't got too much planned in the scheme of things, but hey, all the more I am on holiday, I can have a bit of a lie-in the morning. Looking forward to it, and more importantly, I can make the 5 o'clock beer o'clock show.
Brilliant. Look, it's been level 2 for me, not unlike yourself, who's stuck at level 4 still. But I must admit, I haven't made it outside the garden today. I made it out to fill up the wheelbarrow with wood to put on the fire. But that has been it, and we can tell that we're well into lockdown and level 4, because finally, after only about 2 weeks of trying to get some arse into gear, 3 weeks, he says. It's Arsford has managed to make a show. How are you doing, sir?
Well, it's not my fault. You try having 2 kids going, Dad, 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 Dad. You know, the mental pressure? Jeez.
Who is this Ashwin you speak of?
No,
I've had dinner. I'm all ready to go.
Oh, fabulous. Well, the dinner already. It's not, wow, that's you eat early in your household.
Yes, we do.
Well, I'll be getting the dad this weekend as I pick up my kids from their mums and have the girls and give her some respite. The big sort of news overnight then, World 12s. I mean, that's what we need, isn't it? Create more space on the pitch, take 3 players off, and obviously players. There's not enough rugby going on, so we'll fill those 3 weeks during August that are the part of the off season in Europe with some more rugby. It all makes sense, doesn't it, boys?
Well, it's good that you've got into it really early, because it'll probably only take us about 2 minutes to get through, Paul.
It'll be like the IPL where, the players from countries that don't get paid so well can go there and make $1 million in 1 week, and then go, and that means that they can play in their local competitions.
Right. Okay. Deary me. But it's going to grow the game and all of this rubbish. It's a cash grab. Let's be honest. It's a bunch of folks who we have the Wild West of it. But basically, we have a sport that's been around for 100 odd years. But we're 25 years into professionalism, and we're still an amateur sport that doesn't really know what it's doing. Let's be blunt. And you mentioned the IPL, but I mean, the IPL had a ready-made audience of 1 billion people. It didn't have established. It had a window. It didn't have established millionaires and billionaires already involved in the sport. And I can really see those people like Bujlad of Toulon being really happy that his players are going to be getting injured during the off season for another millionaire.
Well, it depends, right? But you sort of like, you got to turn it a little bit, because you you're talking about your Bujlad, and it's just like, what if this crowd that's making this competition goes to him and says, "Here's $10 million for you to enter a team into this competition"? What's he going to say then?
True. As I said in our live chat, this thing can work, but only if you throw an awful lot of cash at it.
Yeah. Where's the money coming from? I suppose that's the interesting thing, isn't it? At the end of the day.
Obviously, Steve Chu, who's one of the main people behind this. Obviously, and he's not, is he? He's obviously well off, but he's not one of these mega rich people. The CEO is Ian Ritchie, who was the ex-CEO of the RFU, who left there under a bit of a cloud. And then there's the Welsh ex Davies from Wales, who's also involved with this as well on the administration side. So again, another ex-administrator. So that gives this thing, as Simon calls it, it looks like a Ponzi scheme.
You got the guys that are the administration level. You got those guys that have been in administration. It's like, what we don't know and what we don't see yet is that who's the backer, where's the money coming from? Is obviously they haven't come up with this concept and idea and gone, hey, we're going to do this, without somebody or multiple parties that have got some dollars to throw at this thing in the background. And Steve, it's almost like we're looking at about 94 or 95, whatever it was, all over again with the when we nearly had the split of rugby. I've forgotten who was the guy that was doing that at that time. I've forgotten his name now. Jeez, mine's gone blank.
Yes,
the Australian guy.
Yes. Was it Kerry Packer? I think it was the guy that you're talking about. For me, what disappoints me the most here are two guys that have managed to carve out successful careers in and around the sport that's given them a heck of a lot. And I just thought the likes of Hansen and Chu, listen, here's an opportunity to maybe fix up something that the game, the problems that the game has got at the lower levels. We've often spoken about how there's a disconnect between secondary school rugby and clubs. Well, here's an opportunity to brainstorm and come up with an idea of bringing this all together. Now, I'm just going to quickly touch on IRANS. Now, IRANS, the original guys who put IRANS together, and that's the institute down in Palmerston North. There was a guy by the name of Trent Eagle who actually helped put that together. In fact, it was his idea. I won't get into too much of what actually eventuated out of that. But originally, when he started IRANS, it was basically formed for grassroots to bring players who were playing club rugby, couldn't quite get to the next level of provincial rugby, to be upskilled so they can be taken to a better place. And that's what originally IRANS was actually started. Now, I think there's a perfect opportunity somewhere, perfect gap in there somewhere for people of these magnitude. And Steve Hansen, he's done everything in rugby. Steve Chu shown that he's been a very good administrator. Some may argue different, maybe even somebody on this particular show. But how about giving something back to the grassroots game of rugby, as opposed to starting another tournament that's going to just make it even more awkward for professional clubs. We're talking about players playing too much rugby. Seriously, do we need this? I don't think so.
We definitely don't need this. That's for certain. But when you see Ian Hansen, Steve Hansen and Jake White as two ambassadors for this. Why are they ambassadors for this? Oh, because somebody's giving them a shed load of cash. Let's be blunt here. That's why they're
the money.
That's why they're saying, oh, this is the next big thing. Is it because they really, really believe that and are doing it purely out of the goodness of their own heart? Hell no. So look, it's nuts. Yeah, and again, why do we need another format? Even if you are going to put a tournament together, why do we need 12s? We've already got some beach rugby. We had Rugby X, we've got beach rugby, we've got touch rugby, we've got 7s, we've got 10s, 15s. There's also a 13-man code. And they decided to come up with Rugby 12s. Why? Well, because somebody's trying to put together a 10s global tournament, which is why they haven't used 10s. That's launching next year. They had a tournament, was it last year or this year, in time flies in this lockdown stuff, in Bermuda. And they had a sort of trial tournament that apparently all went well. Maybe people actually got paid. And the players apparently enjoyed themselves. Obviously, there were no crowds, but they're looking at a multi-stop tour on the 10 side. That's why they've not chosen 10, so why they had to come up with their own. Or either that, or they've decided, because this isn't World Rugby sanctioned as yet. So maybe the other reason is that maybe World Rugby's got some sort of copyright on 10s or something that they can't use. Yeah, this isn't. It's all a bit of a farce to me.
What I haven't seen, like, I've seen people saying, "Oh, lose, what is it, 12s?" I've already forgotten how many numbers it was. 12s, but I haven't actually seen the discussion around. So where is the drop off? Where are the players going missing? Has anybody seen that?
So I think you're losing 2. I think I've seen someone say what you only call number 8, which suggests that you're losing 2 flankers.
Yep.
And then I guess you're losing a back as well, but I don't know.
You have to lose a back, isn't it?
May as well add a player and do away with lineouts.
And just lead into each other for scrums.
Yeah, pretty much.
Well, they
do away with rucks because they're contention all the time anyway, and just sort of like get up and play the ball between your legs or something.
You talk about this scrums thing because they've decided to come up with a new type of penalty where you're not allowed to kick a goal if you get a penalty from a scrum. So you can't kick points if you get a penalty from a scrum. Look, as you can tell, folks, we're skeptical, I think, is the nice way of putting this around this one. Yeah, let's just we'll wait and see if this actually happens or not.
Just going back. You're just going back to the history element of it. When rugby nearly went professional and unsanctioned in 2 directions, back in about '95 or whatever it was. So if this isn't authorised by the IRB, then it has to become an unsanctioned competition. That means that the players that do sign up with it can't come back and play rugby for the under any any country that's aligned with the IRB, because that's what happened last time. That's what was going to happen.
It may or it may not. I mean, look, you've got 3 heavyweight administrators here who, let's be honest, have got contacts with World Rugby to make sure that kind of thing doesn't happen. I'm not sure if they'll go that far. The Major League Rugby in the States was not sanctioned by USA Rugby for a while because that would have potentially led it into legal issues with pro rugby. But whilst they didn't sanction it, they weren't anti it either. So just because you don't sanction it doesn't mean you're going to be actively try and dissuade it. But yeah, putting it in the August window puts it up against the Rugby Championship. It also puts it into the off season for international players in Europe and the beginning of pre-season for non-international players in Europe. So yeah, we'll see what happens. I mean, each team apparently has to have 2 tier 2 players and has to have 1 under 20 player. As part of their 24-man squads. Let's see if it happens or not. We especially if you follow a glass half empty attitude. This, he says,
bottle half empty. As you go.
So
And he's run out of ginger nuts.
Yeah. I have actually.
So there are certain, I mean, there are competitions that we hear all sorts of these competitions going on. I mean, supposedly there's a new professional sevens tournament series starting in the USA as well. So we'll see if that one takes off. It's just this one has got some pretty high profile, well-known rugby people involved.
Yeah. Well, for me, what is even more surprising, we've actually spoken about this subject for 15 minutes. And that's, and that's probably
it's a show about nothing.
Yeah, it's a show about nothing. We've turned into Seinfeld.
Bag's not George.
Yeah, we'll have to look into this European Super Cup that Simon keeps mentioning. The Rugby Super Cup. I've not. Okay, this is Georgia, Israel, and stuff. Yep. Okay, fine. So Jordie Barrett has got off because apparently it was unintentional, and therefore, because it was unintentional, it cannot be reckless. Boys, do you agree with that kind of premise that if something isn't intentional, it can't be reckless?
No, but it's like each. I sort of think like you look at it on each case individually, and you look. That's the way I suppose it's been looked at. If it's not intentional, then it's sort of like look at the other circumstances, just like you would in any case. You put your case forward, you put your expert witnesses forward, and that's how it works, I suppose.
Yeah. Listen, they've made a rod for their own back. As soon as I saw it, I knew it was going to be a red card because it was a case of
on the field was red card, absolutely.
Boot making contact with the face. But like I say, here's a perfect opportunity to just put something in report. Hell's teeth. We can all see, there's an accidental element about it. End of story. Hey, we'll put that on report. We'll have a look at it. I must admit, when I saw it the first time and the first couple of replays, that's the red card. But we got nothing in process that could basically send it down another path. Putting it on report, pretty easy. You review it, doesn't compromise the game in any way, shape, or form. And I'll tell you what, you would probably have less the chatter of this particular subject.
Simon says no, but I don't care too much. He got a red card. His punishment. Let's move on. But what's the point of having beer and chats if we're not going to talk about it? We can't move on straight away.
You wouldn't have talked about rugby 12s for 15 minutes.
Well, there is that as well. Yes.
I think it's a tricky one. You know, at the end of the day, I look at I think Boa put up in our chat group. The Nambura, is it for the Highlanders when he kung fu kicked the Waratahs player in the face? It's a very similar situation, except the fact is that with that one you can really clearly see that he sees the man and then he puts his foot up, right? Yeah. So it becomes, although a reaction, still an intentional thing. And I suppose with the Jordie one, what you sort of see is that you can't actually see him lock eyes on the incoming player. What you more see is the fact that it's a reaction to his balance, and he's putting his leg out. I don't know. That's the way I'm sort of looking at it. And that's a tricky one. So you're looking at a reflex, but intentional, reflex, and non-intentional.
So let me just run you through 4 examples of this that's happened over recent times. So Roy Lamont did one back in 2009, where a flying kick hit someone in the face, and he was down and out. Knocked unconscious, and that was deemed unintentional, and so no penalty. Move on.
Nothing.
So that was 2009. Then in 2018, we had the Nabrura one where, again, he looks down, puts his foot out, and catches Cam Clark in the face, and that was a red card and a initial 12-week suspension reduced down to 6 weeks because of early plea and all of that kind of stuff. So 6 weeks there. In 2019, there was Now, unfortunately, this video is not available in my region, so I couldn't watch this one. But the Wasps back Paulo Odugu. Sorry about that, folks. I've obviously mispronounced that badly. Caught Rohan van Rensburg in the face. So Wasps against Sale. He got a red card and was given a 6-week suspension. And this is key here. And this is a quote from the judiciary panel. The panel did not accept the player's explanation that his leg extended to assist his balance in the air and to prevent him from falling backwards. Right, so that was not which is exactly Jordie Barrett's defence that's got him off. That was in 2019, so it's not like it's a long time ago. Roy Lamont was back in 2009, and the law. So 2 years ago, a guy uses the same thing. This year, Adam Hastings again got a straight red card, and he got suspended for 3 matches. Again, unintentional, a bit like Jordie in the fact that, again, in all these cases, the ones that I can see, generally the hips are in front of the shoulders, which suggests they're going to rotate and fall down and hurt themselves, which is part of Jordie's defence. Therefore, they extend their legs to balance themselves. Yet all these other people get a ban, apart from Lamont, and Jordie gets off.
No, I think we're actually tackling this the wrong way. We're talking about, and we're doing the same mistake as the judiciary does, right? Is we're looking about an individual situation, an individual case here. What they actually need to do is to run this more like a civil proceeding, for want of a term. And the fact is that you've got precedents set, and you've got, so like going back to that one where you said that here's the defense back in 2019. I was off balance. I was using my leg to counterbalance myself. Nah, rubbish. We're not buying that. Blah blah blah. Now that's a precedent that's been set. They should have access to all this when they're making these judicial decisions, and that's what should be forming part of the decision-making process of what. Now, if it's up to the defendant, if he wants to appeal it, to say, hang on, no, that doesn't come into it. But at the end of the day, to simplify it, to say, hey, look, here's the precedence that's been set, so we're applying it, and sorry, Jordie, but your argument that you were trying to balance yourself in the air doesn't wash, and based on previous judicial hearings, this is what the outcome is. If you did that, you're starting to get more consistency in what's actually being handed down. People can't have arguments because, you know, when we go and tip over South Africa in a couple of weeks and Jordie's playing there in 15, what's going to be the complaints on all those Facebook pages from the South Africans? Oh, Jordie shouldn't have been playing anyway. So it's like, you know, that's going to happen, right? So it's just like, if you had consistency in delivery of judicial outcomes, then you would actually have less arguments around, oh, this player got this and this player didn't.
I'm going to say, you got a lot of South Africans sounding like Indians these days.
Yeah.
That was a pretty awful South African.
Oh, so I know. I was on the spot. It's on the spot. You know, under pressure. It was under pressure. Just didn't come out. I needed John on. You can get that sound happening in your ear, and it comes out better.
Oh yes. You got it. You got to drag it. That's what you got to do. Drag it.
So Simon says no such thing as consistency in rugby, and yeah, that's one of our problems here, isn't it?
Oh, that's one of them. That's the problem, isn't it? And that's the problem.
And that's why you've got to go back to putting things on report, because we're not.
No, we've put it on report. We've still got the judiciary. We've still got and
yeah, but at least it's not compromising the game at the time, because that's what you're doing at the moment. You're compromising. A guy gets let off for what probably should never have been a red card, just put on report. Nobody. The winners here are the people.
But
watching.
Did the game get compromised? Did the game get compromised?
I think it did.
And what do you reckon? But the All Blacks still won. And in fact, during the time when they were down to 14 men or 12 men, yeah, they actually ended up winning that period.
Yeah, you could argue the way a couple of the Australians played, that they may have only turned up with 12 on the day. But speaking of 12,
but you know what I mean. I mean, it's just like I don't know. I like the concept of this 20 minutes for the red card, and then the red carded player doesn't come back.
No.
Oh, oops.
No. God, that's awful. Jeez.
Oh, oops.
See, there you go.
The 20 red card is a farce. I mean, how is that a deterrent? You might as well just go.
It's not. But the thing is that, but the problem is that you've got. Well, then you go to Steve's concept, then, right?
Yeah.
You go to Steve's concept then, because if that red card was in the first 5 minutes of the game's over. Really, the game's over. I mean, like the All Blacks don't. I mean, like when Scott Barrett got sent off, right? You're not going to hold on for that long. So it's like, what's the point in watching the game?
Yeah.
But the game isn't about watching the game; it's about the players on the pitch, and we just happen to watch it. I mean, the laws have got to be about the players. If we're not going to have separate laws for high performance, which is a spectator sport, than we have for the club game. If you want to have the same, the laws will be set for the players, not for the audience. If you have separate laws, then that's fine. Then you can have laws for the audience, but we don't. But that's not that's not how the laws are set.
What's your standard penalty for shoulder contact to the head?
Red.
Yeah, no, but what's your? Yeah, I know it's a red, but what's usually the penalty?
Weeks.
What usually? How many?
Oh, you mean so how many
weeks?
How many weeks? 2 weeks, 4 weeks.
Yeah, it's about 2 or 3. Yeah, about 3 weeks. Yeah.
See, even that varies. Even we saw a situation a few weeks ago. I'm going to go to the 13-man code, but South Sydney playing the Roosters. There's a high contact, shoulder on head, goes on report. Players out for 6 weeks. Misses the final. Sorted. Didn't compromise the game at the time, and that player was penalised accordingly.
Yeah, I get, but again, I say it's if in NRL those laws are for an entertainment sport, right? They're not for a grassroots sport.
We're not.
I see. Yeah, right. So you're talking grassroots league. Yeah.
Now, what I'm saying is that if we're going to have separate laws for the entertainment or the high performance section compared to grassroots, then fine. But I'm saying that because we use the same laws from top to bottom of the structure, that we can't do that. That we have to remember this is a player led sport, not an entertainment led sport.
I think one thing we also have to think about is that we do beat up our sport a lot around the judicial aspects and these sorts of decisions. Let's look at, Paul, you mentioned the NRL. That is an abortion of a judicial system that they have when 1 week, Lateral Mitchell, is it the guy's name? Lateral Mitchell, whatever his name is, who smashed the Roosters player in the jaw. 1 week he gets put on report. The week before, there's a guy gets sent off for doing the same thing or lesser on that. That was a horrific contact. They looked at it in slow-mo. And if you don't give a red card for that, what the hell do you give a red card for? So, I mean, the inconsistency in that sport is way beyond anything we have in rugby.
There's a question for Paul. Paul, are you actually concerned there's a player that will deliberately go out and target somebody to take them out? Is that World Rugby's concern?
I mean, well, clearly not, because their concern is just avoiding getting sued and becoming bankrupt. I mean, that's how they build their laws. At the end of the day, they don't really care about player welfare. They don't really care about all this other stuff. It's about making sure they don't get sued. Now, in my opinion, now for me, I think it's about creating a big enough deterrent to change the behaviour of the players. And I don't think a 20-minute ban, a 20-minute off and replaced, is a big enough for a deterrent.
Nah. What you need to do there though is the fact is that it's only 20 minutes in the game, but that player's off for it's what comes afterwards. Now, if there's a element of thuggery that goes on, then the absolute book should be thrown at him. So that'd be the deterrent.
I had a very good conversation today with a very good friend, and he played for Waitemata and Otahu back in the day. He was also the record club point scorer for probably a whole decade, Doug Aldred. I don't think he'll mind too much if I mention his name, but I basically asked him about sort of like training processes when they're having full-on contact training have you ever been in a situation where there's been a high tackle? He said, no. He said, we'll never do it because technique is pretty much everything. But he said, in the heat of a battle in the game, it tends to go out the window. But he said, no team trains to tackle high. So I just want to make that really, really clear. And he said, listen, even back in the day where it could be a bit sort of like cowboyish style, were there any situations where guys were getting taken out? And he said, no, nobody went out to deliberately maim somebody. But he said, if it was retaliation, if somebody had basically thrown a punch, oh yeah, sure, you can guarantee at the next line out they'll probably return the favour, which is the sort of stuff that you can't get away in this day and age. Like a lot of the cards that I've seen probably since these laws have been sort of instituted, I can't say that there's been too many of them where they're absolutely players have gone out to maim anybody. They've just basically got their tackle line in the wrong place. I think Boa, who's part of our team here at New Zealand Sport Radio, is definitely on the right track in terms of lowering the tackle line. And you have to put not so much marks on the jerseys during your playing. I think you basically make teams that are training at least have that tackle line, so they just get used to it at the end of the day.
Yeah, it is something you just get used to, and through the age grades, if you do it enough at the age grades, then by the time they make it up to professional, they'll just tackle there normally. And now at the professional level, I think the psychos who go out there to take players out get weeded out by the time they get there. At club level, I think there are a few psychos in there who do go out just to take out players because they can do on the pitch and get away with it and not get a police charge. So I think at the club level, there are a few around that will go out and just try and take someone out. But at the professional level, I just don't think you can be a professional player and have reached that level and still be doing that. I think you get weeded out at some point along the way, in my opinion. But yeah, no, it's the deterrent that I think it should be useful. And yeah, you're right. Maybe a 12-week game. Eye gouging's gone when they had like 6 months and 12 months bans. That got rid of that pretty quickly. Which you used to see in French rugby, for example.
Some of the stuff you see from the old days is horrendous, and some of that wasn't too long ago. I can recall a provincial game, Hawke's Bay, Wellington, where Clint Newlands absolutely flattened Namir Tialata at a line-out and literally just blind-shotted him. And he went down in a screaming heap, and Clint Newlands received 9 weeks for it. Now, from what I believe, he's still debating whether he should have got that card or not. Mate, quite frankly, no, the sentence, which was 9 weeks, quite frankly, he should have been gone for the whole year, as far as I'm concerned.
And I shouldn't bring up. I was going to say, then I shouldn't bring up the best punch in rugby was in '87 in the semi-final against Wales, when Buck flattened Hugh Richards in one go. Hugh Richard flattened Alan Winton. Alan Winton was out for the count, and before Hugh Richards knew it, he was out for the count as well.
The game, Paul. To be fair, the game's and good on the administrators for cleaning it up. And tidying it up. It's a good thing. You want to future proof this game. For the young ones that are coming up, whether it's your children or your grandchildren. That's the way this game is going to survive. So parents go to themselves, you know what? It's a safe enough game to play, because if I was a parent watching rugby league at the moment, I'd be going, really, seriously?
Yep. Paul goes. You haven't. Aaron goes. Paul, you haven't watched the South Africa games against the All Blacks. I was actually going to bring up an
pre-91
All Blacks versus England. I think was it where one of the props. We talk about king hits are a big thing here in New Zealand at the moment. Where literally the player's walking away from him and he hits him and he knocks and throws a haymaker. So yeah, the All Blacks have been involved in that before at the international level. But you're saying it's now gone from the game.
There was a shocker in the opening minutes of a Wales All Black test where Andrew Hoare basically absolutely flattened, I think, Bradley Davies. I think
that's what I'm thinking of. Yes,
was off the ball. It was an absolute shocker. And really, under these rules, the All Blacks would have saw that game out with only 14 men. You know, the game has had its thugs. And, you know, when you think of those thugs, you could probably name them all on one hand. You know, guys who just basically...
No. There's more than one hand. There's a couple of hands worth of thugs.
Oh, yeah, but I think they're guys at the highest level. You know there's going to be trouble somewhere along the line. I mean, to say somebody like Dane Coles, you know Dane will get into an altercation. But if you start looking through the rest of that All Black team at the moment, in the main, I think they're all pretty level headed. You look through the South African side, you could arguably say Etzebeth doesn't mind getting in a bit of getting into a little bit of confrontation, and that's what I mean. There are guys in certain teams around the world. There's also the big Argentinian lock who used to get into a bit of trouble as well. His name just escapes me at the moment, but I do think those are sort of guys that just basically lose their head. Even those guys, I think they're probably easy initiated or easily intimidated.
Yeah, as you say, the whole what do you call it? I've gone blank now. The enforcer. It's just kind of what people are kind of known, and that's got a nice term for the thug that would go out and hit people. Richard Lowe apparently is someone that Aaron's suggesting.
I think Richard Carroz is still trying to straighten his nose.
I've heard stories where teams playing against him wanted to actually play with goggles on.
Oh,
you're going to go back to which end? Go back to it, Paul. Go Google the NPC final between Waikato and Otago. That's the one you want to go see.
Yeah, 92-93, Greg Cooper.
Something like that.
Yeah, shocking. Absolutely shocking. Paul Carrozza getting a bit of an elbow after he'd scored a try. Boy, it's kind of crazy that guys like Scott Barrett has been red carded, or for Tuanga Fassi have been red carded, but in terms of
Kevin Skinner,
in terms of their instinct, they've got nothing on the likes of people like Richard Lowe, with the greatest of respect.
Yep.
So Simon Hughes, Frank Skinner back in the 1930s. Wow, Simon, you're going back way further than I can go with that.
Kevin
one.
Kevin Skinner,
and that might be too far back as well.
Auckland Waikato 91 apparently for Richard Lowe is an interesting one. Obviously, Thomas Lavanini is the person you were thinking of earlier from Argentina. Folks, I've put a link in the live chat, by the way. If you're enjoying the show, go ahead and nominate us for the New Zealand Podcast Awards, please. And in the sport and the independent section would be great. And you never know, we might get an award. Not that it would make any, which would be nice.
And even with Ashwin on the show, you can put us in the foreign press category as well. So
diversity.
Hang on, I'm the foreigner here. Do you mind?
Yeah. The irony, eh? But that's how we stereotype, man. That's how we roll.
Oh dear. Well, there we go, folks. We have just lost any chance of winning anything with our stereotype.
Because I was going to say, I like Simon's idea with all the coloured cards, because we need to bring diversity into rugby. They're having multiple coloured cards. Does that too?
Well, we need the full rainbow set. Oh dear. Also, folks. Mark Shaw, apparently another enforcer there, has been thrown out.
Cowboy.
Don't forget you can support us through patreon.com/NZ Sport Radio. That helps us get the text. We can bring you all of this kind of stuff, and we'll be bringing you the next Waikato game, folks. I have had confirmation that under level 2, I will be allowed to be at Waikato NPC games, and Farah Palmer Cup games, hopefully. Which day their next game is on is up in the air at the moment, apparently. So expect the whole schedule to be ripped to pieces and republished, folks.
Just going to ask that question.
Yeah, so they're down to play Canterbury on Sunday, 2 o'clock kickoff, which is what I thought it would be, and I thought they would just basically just roll on with the Paul O'Connell. Simon, that he was not in the thug category by any stretch of the imagination. Jeez, he was a good footballer. What I thought they would do is basically run with the games as they are scheduled and then try and fit other stuff around it. but they're being much more sensible than that by the sounds of it, and are going to basically do it from scratch. Obviously, with three teams out, it makes sense to totally rejig things to try and keep spaces available to play those teams towards the end of the season. Stephen.
I'm just trying to think to myself. We could put together a filthy 15. We could start our front row with Richard Lowe, Andrew Hoare, and Kevin Bodovich. Wouldn't you say, Ashwin?
yeah. Oh, Kevin, you said Kevin Borovich. You go back to the NPC final at Only Domain, don't you?
Oh my God! Yes, you could go back. You could go back to that as well. Unfortunately,
that was an absolute shocker.
Absolute, yeah, I know, it's crazy. That's a 15 we could put together. We won't call it a filthy 15. We'll call it guys who played on the edge 15.
Living on the edge. Then we can put some music to it.
Yes.
But hang on, look. Okay, so you 1 to 8, you're going to have multiple candidates for, right? And you'll be fine getting your pack. How many 9s can you think of that would be the filthy 15? I mean, that would be that's where and 10s. I mean, 10s are generally back in the day, wave players through. Please feel free. Oh, actually, you're going to put Farrell in there, aren't you? At 10.
I was just going to say, we'll put your mate in there.
As soon as I started saying, it's obvious, isn't it? There we go.
He could have been at the Paralympics. He hasn't got any arms.
Jeez.
I think you'd probably have to look at a French scrum half, wouldn't you, Paul?
A French scrum half.
Oh yeah. You'd have to. Yeah.
They've had some fiery little Frenchmen in that number 9 jersey. And that number 9 jersey over the years. I think if you go back to the sort of 70s, 80s.
My knowledge doesn't go there, I'm afraid, so I can't help you.
I think with the halfbacks, you're probably going to find not so much a dirty halfback, but a halfback that once it's going, you can't hold him back. He just wants to get involved.
Actually, Simon,
just needs a sniff of it.
Actually, Simon Hughes brought up a good name, Byron Kelleher.
Yeah.
A little
That's
bit
more off the field. That's more off the field.
Yeah, he was. Yeah. we won't go there. I think so. Troy Flavel might have to say about that.
Nines are more famous to be like be like your Faf de Klerk, who gets in there, kicks it off, and then just walks away. Your number 15 is going to be dead easy. That's JPR Williams at number 15.
Seriously,
what, dirty? No, he just got his face rucked open. That's all.
What I mean? Okay, so I mean, we go back to the Lions tour to Africa and the famous. Was it 95 call? I've got
99
call. 99 call. And they shouted 99. He runs halfway across the pitch and lumps somebody. I mean, so yeah, he was well in. There were other backs who just stood back there and just let it all happen. But no, he was right in there. Wingers could be hard to find though. I think.
I think I've come up with a number 8. Grizz Wiley, wet and forget man. The former Canterbury.
Are you saying you haven't seen any wet and forget ads, Paul?
No.
Well, no, I understand wet and forget ads, and but I didn't realise he was a rugby player.
Yeah, he was. Oh, he was
a rugby player.
He was an All Black coach actually, Paul.
Oh, really? Oh, okay. There we go.
Yeah. He was an All Blacks co-coach. That worked really well too.
Yeah, that went really well. Yeah.
Two guys that hate each other.
Yeah.
Apparently, former All Black and Argentinian coach.
Yeah, actually, I think he did get involved with Argentina as well. Yeah.
Yes. He followed the Graham Henry path.
Oh dear me. Wingers I think can be a bit difficult for this in that kind of 15. So folks, please give us some nominations for wingers that would be part of that. And
Grant Batty, yes. Actually, Grant Batty. I was actually thinking of Grant Batty when we were talking about halfbacks, because he looked like a halfback, but he was a winger.
Okay. Again, these are all names I haven't got a clue about, so there we go. So I can't add anything. But cool. Anyway, look, folks, it's been a blast. I've really enjoyed this afternoon. But we've got to wrap things up now. Do join us again at 5 p.m. tomorrow, and we'll go through the latest kind of news from the previous 24 hours, and also go through our wingers from our Dirty Dozen team. So if you can think of any good wingers as well as Grant Batty, then do let us know. And I think we could also do with a few more scrum halves, to be honest. In that, I'm not convinced by our selections there at the moment. But Osrin, thank you so much for joining us for the first time. We are not worthy.
That's all good now. So I've now got to go do the video of my kids playing goalball. So if you've been watching the Paralympics, you'll know what goalball is. So my kids now play goalball. So we have to go and shoot video of goalball.
You video every game?
Hey?
You video every game?
No, they're playing it.
No, but they played it already. This wasn't the first time they've yeah, well, we've already seen videos of them playing it.
Yes.
Yeah.
I did see that. I couldn't believe it was a thing. I thought it was. I was watching. I thought I was watching some YouTube video, but it was actually the Olympics.
No, the kids saw it, and now they sort of like, they like having a go at it. And put a blindfold on, and away they go.
And they're both blindfolded, right? Even the thrower as well. Yep.
Yeah, everybody.
Everybody's fantastic game. Yeah, love it. I love the idea of it. Brilliant one.
Yeah, it was actually quite cool.
So cool, boys. So yeah, do join us again at 5 p.m. tomorrow for more lockdown beers and rugby chat. And also, if you're into your league, then watch two grown men cry this evening at 8 p.m. after the way that the Warriors finished their season off with a couple of lengthy bans for players, which was a disgusting game. But there you go. Talking of grubs, and some of the play with some of the Sean Locke was a card waiting to happen. He was
I know, and he even when he got sent off, he even sort of messaged to the crowd and gave them a rating. He was rating their season as well.
1 out of 10. It was.
Did you say Sean Locke?
Yeah.
9 out of 10 cats do countdown.
Yeah, hasn't
Oh no, not
Sean Locke. Okay.
Hasn't that guy got a bit of history? Apparently, if you Google him, it's not great.
Yes, he does. That's Cameron George. And I'm sure the guys will go into it tonight. Cameron George was on after the game or the next day on the news, talking about the fact that okay, we might have to look at his history and see where we go with that.
Yeah.
Good call.
So join the boys. Yeah, join Brad and Richie for that tonight. I'd say it might not be the most pleasant listening. You might think of Kane Evans. He's the other one. Matt Lodge was the guy. Sorry, not Sean Lodge. There we go. So there we go. So anyway, do join us. Do join them and join us at 5 o'clock. Cheers. Stay safe. Lockdown. Well done, Auckland, and keep it up.